Hello, this is Jared from LearnToDroid.com. Today we'll be doing a tutorial on using IBM's Watson Speech-to-Text service to convert some audio captured from a microphone on your device to some text to display in your Android app. Before we get started, I'll show you a quick demo of what we'll be building. So I'll select the Start Recording button. I'll say testing 1, 2, 3. Hit the convert button.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
So this is invoke the IBM Watson speech-to-text service and return the results from converting my speech to text and given a confidence interval of 0.98. So this is what we'll be building today. So let's get started. So the first thing we'll need to do is to set up some dependencies in the app-level build.gradle file. So I'll open the app-level build.gradle file and I'll talk you through the changes that I've made. So first, in the dependencies section, I've added two dependencies. One for IBM Watson, the SDK available for Java. In addition to this, I'm pulling in the FFMPEG library, which will allow you to convert audio files to different formats. So this is required because we'll need to use the MediaRecorder API in Android to capture our voice recording, and then we'll need to convert it to a format that's supported by the Watson API. In addition to these two dependencies, we'll need to enable multi-dex by setting that to true, and we'll also need to use min SDK version 24 for the FFmpeg library. Next, I'll open up the app manifest file. In the app manifest file, we'll need to add two permissions, one for using the internet and another for recording the audio. So we'll need an IBM Cloud account so we can invoke IBM Watson's speech-to-text API. So I'm logging into my IBM Cloud account now. So what we'll need to do is create a resource for IBM Watson's speech-to-text API. So select Create Resource, go into the Services section. In the catalog, search for speech-to-text. And we'll create a new speech-to-text API. We'll select the Dallas region. We're using the Lite plan, which gives us 500 free minutes per month. And we'll create the service. Once it's been created, go into the Manage section. And if you select the Show Credentials button, you'll be able to get your API key and also this base URL, which we'll use in our Android project when we invoke the API. So this is the activity layout resource file we use for our main activity. It's a linear layout with a vertical orientation, and inside it, it's got one button, which has got the text record speech. We'll toggle this button to use it for initiating the recording of the speech, and then for converting the audio using the API. We've got a text view, which is just a heading for the results that are returned from the API, and we've got a RecyclerView where we'll display each of the individual results. So next I'll show you the process of implementing the main activity. So I'll open the main activity class. Okay, so what you can see here is I've copied over my API key and I've included the base URL here as well. We'll need that when we start invoking Watson's API for speech-to-text. So in the onCreate method, one thing we'll need to do is we'll need to dynamically request permissions to use the record audio permission, because this is considered a dangerous permission in Android, so we need to request that at runtime. So after invoking the request permissions method, we'll also need to override the onRequest permission result method and handle that permission has been successfully granted by the user. Okay, so before we can call the API, what we'll need to do is we'll need to use a MediaRecorder so we can record the speech that we want to send to our API. So in the onCreate method, we'll create a new MediaRecorder, calling the constructor, and we'll set up the recording button. And we'll add an onClick listener to that recording button to check if it's currently not recording. We will check that the audio recording permission has been granted, and then we'll invoke the start audio recording method. So next I'll show you the start audio recording method. So what we're doing at the top is toggling the isRecording value. If the isRecording value is false, we'll need to set the button text to start recording. If it's true, we'll set the button text to convert speech. That way we can reuse this button for both of the actions. Next, in the start audio recording method, we'll create a unique UUID, which we'll use for the file name. We'll create a file name for the recorded file, and we'll create a file name for the converted file. We'll use the files directory in internal storage, and for the recorded file name, we'll use the extension .3gp. For the converted file name, we'll use the extension .mp3. Then we'll create a new MediaRecorder object. On that MediaRecorder, we'll set the audio source to use the mic on the device. Then we'll call the setOutput method on the MediaRecorder to use the output format of 3GPP. Then we'll call the setAudioEncoder method on the MediaRecorder to use AMR-NB. Then on the MediaRecorder, we'll call the setOutput file to use the recorded file name. We'll invoke the prepare method, then the start method to start the recording. So after that, when the user clicks the button, what will happen is a new thread will get started. Inside that thread, it invokes a method called convertSpeech. So this is the implementation of the convertSpeech method. At the top, we're going to toggle the recording value again. Then we're going to stop the MediaRecorder, reset it and release it. So this will dump the contents of the audio that's been recorded to the 3GP file. Then we'll use the FFMPEG library to convert the 3GP file to MP3 file. Now, MediaRecorder doesn't have native support for MP3, that's why we have to do this step. So MP3 works pretty well with the IBM's Watson Speech to Text API, so this is why we're converting it into an MP3 file. So after the conversion takes place, if it's successful, what we want to do is just play the recording of the converted file so you can hear what it sounds like as an MP3 file. So this is the method for playing the recording. We create a new media player. We set the data source to the file name. We invoke the prepare method and then we invoke the start method, and that will play the audio file. After that, we'll set up the speech to text service from IBM's Watson library. To do this, we will need to create an IAM authenticator object, passing our API key. Then we'll create a speech to text object, passing the authenticator as an argument to the constructor. We'll set the service URL on the speech to text service to the base URL we've gotten from the IBM console. From there, we'll set up a file variable, which points to the audio file of the converted file in MP3 format. We'll create recognize options using the builder, and we'll pass the audio file, the content type of audio MP3. So we'll also need to pass a model. So because I've got an Australian accent, we're using the NAU narrowband model to try and pick up on my accent, and then we'll call the build method. So to get the results, we will create a variable called transcript, which is of the type speech recognition results, and we will call the recognize method on the speech to text service. We pass the options that we've defined above, call the execute method, and then call the get result method. So in Android development, if you're doing multi-threaded development, you can only update the views, the contents of the views, if you're on the UI thread. So we're using a handler to make sure that once we've gotten the results from the API, we can safely update the RecyclerView with those new results on the main thread. So in the run method, we'll first clear the array list of the results that we've previously defined. We will pass the response as a JSON object that we received from IBM's speech to text service, and we'll get the results array. In that results array, we will get the set of alternatives that have been provided in the results. And for each alternative, it's got a value for a transcript and a value for a confidence. We'll put those inside an array list of results, which we'll give to the RecyclerView. At the bottom of the run method, we're updating the RecyclerView adapter for the results with the updated set of results that we've just retrieved from the API. We've also got some code in here to handle the failures from the FFMPEG conversion. So this is what we'll be showing for the view inside the RecyclerView holder. For each item in the RecyclerView holder, it will be inside a linear layout with a horizontal orientation, with the transcript as a text view and then a confidence as another text view. For each result retrieved from IBM Watson Speech to Text API, we're keeping a hold of two variables, one for the transcript, which is a string, and a double value for the confidence. This is the RecyclerView adapter class we've created. At the top, it contains a list of result records. And this is initialized to a blank array list in the constructor. We've got the onCreateViewHolder method, which uses the layout that I went through previously. And in the onBindViewHolder method, we invoke the bind method on the view holder, and we pass a result value at the position provided in the method. In the getItemCounts method, we just return the size of the results list. In the setResults method, we update the results in the list, and then we invoke the notifyDatasetChanged method to trigger the RecyclerView to be redrawn. And here's our result view holder. You can see how in the bind method, the two text views get updated using the setText method. In the constructor, the transcript and the confidence text views are initialized using the findViewByID method. So that's it for today's tutorial. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks very much.